Welcome back to another question and answer session here at Silicon Dojo. So basically what this is people leave me questions down in the comments area. I go through, I take a look at the questions every day and I try to figure out the ones that are most interesting to answer. So if you have any questions, feel free to put your questions down in the little comment section down below. And if it's particularly interesting, I will try to answer it. Basically, I do a question and answer session every day. So if you put your question down below, most likely there's a good chance that it will be answered. So the question today comes from David. So David asks, Eli, how do you drive change in a large organization? Okay, we can just stop you right there. TLDR, TLDW, you don't. You don't. Oh. You probably want more information than that. Anyways, okay, let's look at this. Eli, how do you drive change in a large organization? Question mark. Many people in my organization are unhappy with the cybersecurity posture. It is both poor in that things frequently go unpatched, neglected, a lack of proper authorization, etc., as well as incredibly restrictive with a centrally managed IT department that is reluctant to give business teams any autonomy. How do you fix these things? How do you fix these things? Are they even worth worrying about? Love the vids, man. Well, thank you for the last part. Now let's go into the front bits. So I think this is an interesting thing because basically I think this is one of those questions that comes up, especially at this current juncture with everything going on kind of in the social consciousness. This whole idea of how can you change the world? How can you change your organization? And one of the things that I think about years and years and years ago, oh, it's so painful to say this. Over a decade ago, I'm old enough I can say decade, and I was actually doing business over a decade ago. Anyways, I remember I was sitting there with a buddy of mine, and we were drinking beer at Brewer's Art back in the day when Brewer's Art was the cool place to be in Baltimore. And I was talking about this whole startup BS that I was trying to figure out at that period of time. And I remember that my friend looked at me and he laughed. And he said, "Why is it that people think that we can change the world when we can't even change our family members?" And it was interesting because we were sitting there drinking beer. I was talking about my business stuff. He was talking about some family issues that he was having. And it was really interesting because he was having like real, he was an adult, he wasn't a kid, but he was having like real adult family issues and having problems with somebody in his family doing the stuff that they needed to do to make their lives better. And the interesting part is he couldn't even get his family member to improve their lives. And so it is kind of this funny idea that people have. It's like, I'm gonna change the world. Really? Are you now? Are you? But there's this idea that we should be able to change the world, and the reality is that for the most part we can't. We can help the world along, a little bit. If we find a team that is pushing a ball in a particular direction, we can help push that ball in a particular direction. But this idea that we're going to do massive world change is, again, I think this is why so many young people right now are so frustrated and depressed. They've been lied to, and again, you'll notice in a lot of my videos, I'm trying to make this very family friendly, so I'm not trying to use any bad words, but you'll notice how much I talk about young people being lied to, and they're lied to about so much. They're lied to say that they should be passionate about their jobs so that their jobs basically give them a meaning for being on this planet. They're lied to say you can change the world. There are all of these lies that are presented to folks, and then we wonder why the young people are so frustrated. It's like, well, we could stop lying to them. I'm just saying, maybe if we stopped lying to these people, it would be a little less frustrated. But there's this idea out there that you can be the change in the world. And the reality is you can change the world to a degree, but most likely not nearly as much as you think you can. You think about somebody that's in the news right now, Greta Thunberg. And I'm not going to go into whether you should like Greta Thunberg or whether you should hate Greta Thunberg, but Greta Thunberg is in the news, right? She's the Scandinavian. She's 18 years old now. She's actually an adult now. I'm not going to go into that one either. But she's the one that went up there and waved her finger at the United Nations and says, "How dare you?" Now, the interesting part is when you look at Greta Thunberg, everybody puts her up on a pedestal. They're like, wow, look at what a single young woman can do. And one of the questions that I have to ask, you're not supposed to ask this kind of question, how much has she actually done? Right? Because think about it. No, don't get me wrong, right? She's in the news a lot and she's on the late night shows and she's in the public consciousness a lot. But to be clear, the Ford F-150 is still the #1 selling vehicle in the United States. I own one. It gets 20 miles to the gallon, right? Tesla is not the #1 vehicle in the United States. They're #1 electric vehicle, right? Again, even with all the putting Greta Thunberg on a pedestal and pretending like she is massively changing the world, the reality is the amount of world change that she is actually pushing forward is shockingly small, at least for the amount of media coverage that she gets. And again, I'm not trying to get all snarky on Greta at this point or anything like that. I just want you to look at somebody like Greta Thunberg, and we are given a narrative. Look at how this young woman changed the world. Which sounds great, sounds wonderful, until you're like, oh, okay, let's look at how this young woman changed the world. She said a lot. She's waved her fingers a lot. A lot of people are like, rawr! But it's kind of one of those things. A lot of people are rawr as they're eating bacon double cheeseburgers, driving down the road in their Ford F-150s, screaming about how the people in power are destroying the planet. And so one of the things that I want you to just simply realize is you do not have nearly as much power as you think you do. And most of the power that you're going to have are with the people that already think along the same lines that you do, right? If you have people that are already worried about the environment, it is easier to nudge them to go vegan or to buy a Tesla. If you have somebody ooh, it doesn't care about the... Oh. Hold on a sec. One takes. Oh, what is this? Oh, this is horrible. Holy crap. Show must go on. Show must go on. It's Greta. It's Greta Thunberg. Said something about Greta Thunberg being struck down. Anyways, there you go. Hey, I give you reality. If nothing else, I give you reality on these shows. But the thing is, you're most likely to be able to change people or nudge people in a direction if they already more or less are looking at the world in the same way that you do, right? Again, if you're dealing with environmentalists, if you're dealing with people that already more or less support PETA, then nudging them to be vegan is going to be relatively easy. If you have somebody that, their entire family have been, ranchers for the past, 300 years, and they think climate change is some government, propaganda or whatever, the fact of the matter is it's going to be massively hard to change those type of people. And so one of the things that you need to be thinking about is how can you support the people that are doing in the world what you want done, right? So many times one of the big problems that I see, and I see this a lot right now, you see this with the activism in the tech world, where you have these employees that are becoming activists in companies that just, they don't align, they're not synergistic with whatever their activist goals are. Again, they're going, imagine you work for Amazon. So you work for Amazon, you're making $300,000 a year, and then you're screaming about the environment, or you're screaming about the death of Main Street America. You're screaming about the death of society or something like that. I was like, well, you're literally getting paid $300,000 a year in order to build a company that is massively resource intensive, that is destroying Main Street America. Again, whether or not that's good or bad, that's its own thing, that are doing all of these things that you dislike. So if you're in that company, and then you're trying to massively shift that company, it's going to be an incredibly hard road to hoe. It's going to be a difficult thing to do. And so what I would argue with most people is that you need to find a company to work in that's already relatively synergistic with whatever your ideas are. And again, this doesn't have to be about climate change or veganism or any of this kind of horse crap. It may just simply be that they're synergistic with your ideas about cybersecurity, right? When you go into the company, I've talked about this before, and you'll hear this a lot where people talk about the cultures of companies. A lot of times when people talk about the cultures of companies, they're talking about foosball tables or beer taps or any of that kind of garbage. One of the important things you need to be thinking about with the culture of a company is basically the overall mentality of the company. Can the boss give, relatively simple instructions to the employees, and the employees are more or less going to do what the boss wanted simply because they're all thinking about things the same way, right? If cybersecurity is job one, if all of your employees, when they come to your company, within their head, they already believe cybersecurity is job one. Let's say they came from the military world or the NSA world or something like that, and so they are always concerned about cybersecurity. They always change their passwords, every week or two religiously. They always use, specific VPNs. They always do specific things as far as security is concerned. The reality is that company is going to be far more secure than a company that may have a lot of policies about cybersecurity that nobody actually follows, right? If you go to a company and the people don't really care about passwords and they really don't care about the dangers of cyber criminals or anything like that, even if you have a whole bunch of policies, even if you have a bunch of rules and regulations, the reality is that the culture of that company is not going to be supporting what you're doing. And so if you're talking about this, you're talking about like a large organization, and you say many people in my organization are unhappy with the cybersecurity posture. It is both poor in that things frequently go unpatched and neglected, lack of proper authorization, etc., as well as incredibly restrictive. What you have to realize is this has all been built out by the management that is above you, and it's been supported by the culture of that company. So the thought that you are going to massively be able to change the culture of your company, you and your small little cohort, is, I don't know, what's the polite word? Ridiculous? I mean, if we're all still driving F-150s after Greta Thunberg, I mean, what's the chance you are really going to massively be changing the culture of your organization? Probably not a whole hell of a lot. So one of the things that I tell people is that they need to focus on basically where they actually have a sphere of influence. Again, one of the interesting things that I see that people do in order for them to not actually accomplish anything, again, this is interesting. You can say things, you can pretend to do things, and then you can fail. Right? But if you set yourself up for failure, it's not going to be a shock when things don't go well. One of the things that I see a lot of people set themselves up for failure is that they try to attack, people or things on the org chart that are just well out of their sphere of influence. Again, complaining what the CEO does, or the CFO, or the CIO, or the CTO, complaining about what the executives do, and talking about, again, what the executives need to do. Not what I need to do, not what my peer over here needs to do, but what the executives need to do. You see a lot of people and they'll complain about that and they'll spend a lot of time and energy, but the fact of the matter is the executive is up there. Again, if it's a large organization, they have hundreds or thousands of employees below them, and they don't really give a crap what the hell somebody says 10 levels down. And that's just kind of the reality, right? And so what a lot of people do is they spend a lot of energy with this idea that they're going to change people that don't really care that they exist. They're basically a replaceable cog. What I would argue is that you need to focus on what is actually within your sphere of responsibility. So let's say you're at the help desk. Let's say you're all the way at the help desk. No, the CEO is not going to give a damn that you exist. They're not going to give a damn if you get hired, you get fired, or you die. That's the fact of the matter, right? You're too low on the org chart. So one of the things that you need to be thinking about is, if you do want to try to help change the culture of your organization, is look at what you can actually do. So you're all the way down at the help desk. You're all the way down at the help desk. You're using some kind of a ticket tracking system, and most likely that ticket tracking system, that's what you're going to be stuck with. Somebody paid licenses for that, 10 years ago, so you're stuck with a 15-year-old piece of software to try to track modern problems. You're probably not going to be able to do a lot about something like that. But you're sitting there down at the help desk, one of the things that you can think about is what can you actually do? Again, what can you actually do? Not what the frickin' CEO can actually do. What can you actually do down at the help desk? So if you're sitting there and you're looking at the help desk, what are some of the things that you can do at the help desk level? You can improve with documentation. One of the big things in all, IT infrastructure is nobody ever documents a gosh darn thing. Even the highly paid people, they get to the documentation at the end, and that's if they get around to it, right? So again, if you're thinking about an organization and you're thinking about neglect, and you're thinking about problems, you're thinking about that kind of thing, think about the documentation that you can create to try to help solve some of the problems that are occurring. One of the things you can think about, like if you're worried about the cybersecurity stance of your organization, little things that you can think about. Imagine if you take a call in on the help desk and you're walking somebody through a problem. You're walking through an email problem or a Slack problem or whatever problem they have nowadays. And just think about this. Just think about this as you say, okay, is everything good? Have you fixed everything? Yes, everything's good. Okay, great. I do just want to remind you that our policy is that everybody should be changing their passwords every couple of weeks. So, I'm not saying that you have to or anything, but if you change your password periodically, that would be very helpful for us. Like doing little things, such as when you're talking with people on the phone for help desk, just reminding them of little security problems that are out there. Hey, have you changed your password recently? Or if you've done X, Y, or Z? Hey, just saying, it would make our lives a lot easier if you might think about doing that. Obviously, not everybody's going to do it, but if 10 or 15% of the people that you talk to on the phone actually do wind up swapping out their passwords, that might be something that's better for cybersecurity. Other things that you can think about doing, again, you're all the way down at the help desk. What can you possibly do? Why don't you do a seminar? Again, I do these little meetups. I do these little presentations here. I did DNS for cybersecurity not too long ago. Why don't you go to your boss? You can say, hey, look, I see that we have some issues with cybersecurity and some of the other stuff here for organization. I would like to do a class, a seminar for our users to explain how our cybersecurity policies work, so on, so on, so on, and so forth, right? And these are the little things that you can do. And again, they're little things. It's going to change your culture a little bit at a time, a little bit at a time, a little bit. Push that ball forward. Again, when we talk about pushing the ball forward, we are not going 50 yards. He's going. No, that's not how it works. You're not going 5 yards. You're not going 2 yards. You're pushing the ball down the field centimeters at a time. Again, one of the reasons people get so frustrated is they think they're going to be getting touchdowns. Why? Why am I not getting touchdowns? Why aren't people clapping at what I've done? Because that's not how it works in the business world. In the business world, you push the ball a centimeter at a time. You hope it's a centimeter. On a good day, you push it a centimeter. On an adequate day, you push it a millimeter. On a bad day, it goes backwards a centimeter. But anyways, right? You start pushing that ball down just a little bit by a little bit by a little bit by a little bit, and the idea as after enough time you may actually be able to get change done. Again, the other thing to be thinking about is to think about what is your sphere of influence. If you are on help desk, if you are in desktop support, if you're a junior system admin, the fact of the matter is your sphere is this big. All right, your sphere is like one level above you and one level below you, right? That's the people that you're able to communicate with. Those are the people that you're able to nudge to get to go into a direction, but that's it. So one of the things that you should be thinking about too is, again, thinking about your career, right? It's not simply about your job. What is your job now? I'm on the help desk now, and it is ridiculous. The cybersecurity of my company is stupid. Right, you're not going to be able to get a lot done on help desk. But here's the thing: you start writing documentation. You start offering training classes every week or two, right, on your own, recognizance. You start talking to people on the phone and just, reminding them about whatever security things are coming up. And then think about it. In a year, 6 months, or a year, at some point, the help desk manager, hopefully they're going to get promoted or they're going to quit. You've done all of these things. You're putting yourself in a good position to then become the help desk manager. Now here's the interesting thing, again, thing to think about in the real world. Nobody gives a damn what a help desk peon says. Because they're a help desk peon. That's the reality. But look, if you're a help desk manager, right, if you're the manager of the help desk and you've got whatever your budget is and you've got whatever your resources are, you are now a manager or a leader of employees. Then when you go to the conference rooms to have the stupid conferences that you have to have, one of the things you can do when you go into those conference rooms is you can say, look, one of the problems that we're currently having with the help desk is we're overloaded with these particular types of ticket issues. I have taken a look at them, and a lot of them have to do with X, Y, or Z security problem. It would really behoove the company to focus on, and again, don't tell them every damn problem in the world. Do one problem at a time. Whatever the biggest problem is, look, we need to really figure out how to solve this particular issue. Again, too many systems are unpatched. And again, when you go to the organization, when you go to the company, and you say this problem is costing us money, right? Because we have unpatched systems. When our users go to use particular software, the software fails because the systems are unpatched. All they need is for the damn systems to be patched. Again, like 99% of the time, all you have to do is update all the software, and computers miraculously start working again, right? And so one of the, you can sit there and go, look, we really need to figure out some kind of, patch management system so that we can clear out this problem that all these users are having, and then that will also help the help desk system, right? Being able to go there as a manager, you now have some type of authority, and you go there, and again, you be nice, and you be polite, and you don't burn bridges, and you don't act like a bro, you don't act like an alpha, because alphas don't exist in the human world. They don't. I swear they don't. Anyways, right? You just go in there, you work with the people, you try to fix the problems that you can. Again, you go in there and you talk with the other different department managers. You talk with the sysadmin folks, and you talk with the network people, and you talk with the desktop support staff. And that's the thing, right? The sysadmin people may be like, we are not going to install a patch management system, right? So there's patch management systems allow you to update all the software. It's like it's not within our budget. Boo-hoo, I don't know how to use it. Again, they have their own little hissy fit. That's what happens in the real world. But you might be sitting there talking to the desktop support manager, and you're like, crap, we really do need to figure out this a patch management system. If the senior sysadmins are blocking it, is there anything we can do at the desktop support level? And the desktop support person may say, well, I'd prefer just to have agents and have a main thing that the sysadmin folks could deal with. But realistically, we could probably install individual patch management systems on each thing. Takes a little more effort, but what the hell, right? You may actually be able to get buy-in from those people. And then when you're sitting there and you're getting buy-in from people, and you're doing documentation, and you're doing training, and you are proving to everybody else in the company that you are a leader. And then when the next job is available, IT manager for this or that or the other thing, then you'll be available to go to that job, and you'll be able to go to that job. And at some point, you'll either be, the senior sysadmin, or you'll be the IT director who tells the sysadmin what the hell to do. And at that point, you can say, we need this patch management system installed. Well, what I think, I don't care. You are now the peon. Again, remember in life, peon, cog, it's all perspective. It's all perspective. That senior sysadmin that seems like they're like absolutely amazing. Remember, they're a peon to somebody else. They are replaceable to somebody else. You're the IT director, and you're looking down like, okay, look, we have the budget in order to do X, Y, or Z. And so this is what we need to push out. So this is an important thing. Like I did a video a couple of videos ago talking about the difference between a job, a career, and your profession. And so this is something you need to be thinking about with your time at any company. Thinking about your time there as a perspective of a career, right? Figuring out what the problems are, what problems can you actually ascertain, trying to figure out what solutions there are to problems, fixing what you can fix, and then figuring out what you have to do, or basically who you have to be in order to fix the additional problems, and basically go from there. Do what you can in your particular position, and then keep trying to move up the ladder, and at some point you may get pretty high up and then realize how powerless CEOs really are. It's amazing. I just find it so adorable. Everybody feels like the CEO controls everything. Ah. That's what they make you think. That's what they make you think. There was a South Park episode. There was like a South Park episode where somebody pooped in the urinal. There's this whole thing about somebody pooped in the urinal, and then it came out. There became this conspiracy theory where it was like the NSA was the one that pooped in the South Park urinal. And basically what it came out to be is the government said that people had to believe that the NSA was capable of pooping in a urinal, because if they didn't believe that the NSA was capable of pooping in an elementary school urinal, then they would stop believing that the US government was nearly as powerful as it is, right? There's this myth, and again, it truly is another lie. It's this myth of power, this idea that people are at the top have these these grips on power and can really just massively control people. And it's not really how it works in the real world. It's just not. Again, the farther you go up in a hierarchy, the more you have to understand how powerless you are. Again, I think it's one of the reasons why so many people are not successful, is they think the farther you go up in hierarchy, the more power you have. The reality, au contraire, the higher you go up in a hierarchy, the more you realize how little power you have. And so what you do is you just simply hyper-focus on the crap that you can actually change. So anyways, maybe you will get up to that level at some point. That's what I would say, is focus on your sphere of influence. And then the other thing that I would say is, again, with culture, again, we talk about culture of companies so many times. Again, we talk about climate change, we talk about social justice, we talk about all this other kind of stuff out there. Do remember, cultures of companies can be far more blasé than things like that. Simply, should people leave work at 5 o'clock at night? I just read the whole biography or the whole thing with Uber. And so this is an interesting thing with Uber. So Uber, under Travis, for a long time, they would offer free dinners, but they would offer free dinners at like 8:30 at night. Literally everybody was expected to stay at work until 8:30 at night. So beyond the bro culture, beyond Boober or anything else, just think about that. That's a component of the culture. And so if you're sitting there and you're trying to figure out how to have work-life balance, Eli, I work at this company called Uber, and I'm trying to figure out how to have work-life balance. And it's like, well, the CEO is basically trying to force everybody to work till 8:30 at night. Unless you got a really small life, I'm not sure how that work-life balance is supposed to work out, right? You can sit there and you can try to change things, maybe around the edges, maybe be nice to people, that type of stuff. But again, if the CEO is pushing everybody to work till 8:30 at night, you really want to massively change the culture about work-life balance. But it's important to be thinking about, again, how late should people be working at night? How often should people be doing overtime? How much do things like cybersecurity, preventive maintenance? Again, preventive maintenance is a cultural decision for a company. Whether you spend a lot of money on preventive maintenance or whether you spend zero money on preventive maintenance. Whether you spend zero money on preventive maintenance because the company is not profitable enough to pay for preventive maintenance, whether you spend zero money on preventive maintenance because the seniority doesn't think that preventive maintenance is useful, or something maybe entirely different. Maybe you're growing and scaling at such a massive degree that preventive maintenance doesn't really matter because, frankly, every 6 months you're tossing the old servers and putting something in new, right? These are all cultural things, right? If the company isn't profitable, there's probably not a lot you can do. If the company doesn't have a mindset towards cybersecurity, though, that might be something where you can go and you can talk to the higher ups and explain to them cost-benefit analysis of dealing with cybersecurity, and you might be able to change their minds. A company that's scaling absolutely massively, again, they may not have time to listen to you. Who the hell cares? By the time the server has a virus in it, it's going to be in the trash can anyway. So something to think about there is like, what is the culture of the company that you're going into? Is it a culture of high profit, pretty relaxed job? Is it, I talked about this in one of my last videos where I had a buddy of mine who worked for like Lockheed Martin or something like that. And there were 9 people on his Linux team. There were 9 senior level Linux system administrators, and they only worked 1 hour a day. And the reason they only worked 1 hour a day is because the systems had to be up and running 24/7. And so Lockheed Martin was willing to pay well north of $1 million a year in people's salaries just so if something did fail, you would have an incredibly cracked team to go in there and fix it in a heartbeat, right? Lockheed Martin has that kind of mentality. So this is something that you should be thinking about, and this is where you should be thinking about, like, do you want to change and go over to another company? A lot of people, again, there's this idea of instead of them changing, instead of them going to another company, there's the idea that the company should change, which, but it's something to be thinking about. Again, I talk about this with the truck drivers. The whole idea, if you're a truck driver and you want to do something good for the planet, you care about unions, you care about small towns, the whole 9 yards, right? If you go to work for Walmart, even though, you know, basically you're just a truck driver, you're probably gonna be far more frustrated with life than if you go and you work for something like the Red Cross, right? If you're driving a truck, you're driving a big ass truck from point A to point B. If you work for Walmart, you're moving, you know, I don't know, big ass TVs, and as you're driving the big ass TVs, you're thinking about the destruction it's doing to the world, how materialistic our society's become, how Walmart is destroying small towns, the whole 9 yards. You're going to be very frustrated. On the other hand, if you're driving a truck for like the Red Cross and you're moving bottles of water into an area that was devastated by a hurricane, right? Same job, but think about it. It's a different mentality, right? This job is actually trying to make the world a better place. It's bringing the water to people that are in desperately need, the whole 9 yards. And so it's one of those things to be thinking about. Again, the culture of the company that you're working for, and then to think about finding a company culture that you're synergistic with. Again, if you're at this company, a lot of people are frustrated. It's a large corporation. There's a culture. You're not going to be able to change a lot. Honestly, you're probably not going to be changed very much unless you stay there a long time and go up the ranks. The reality is the best thing to do is stay with that company, do the documentation, do the training, do what you can. Again, do what you can. Stop worrying about what other people can do. Stop worrying about what other people should do. Focus on what you can do. You can create documentation. You can create educational programs. You can poke and prod people politely, to try to be a little bit better about cybersecurity things. But as you do that, that's when you put your resume out, or that's when you start accepting, you know, calls in from LinkedIn or whatever to try to go and find a job with another company that might be a better cultural fit for you. So those are some things to think about when, you know, how do you drive change in a large company? You don't? Not really? But it's true. Just think about that. Think about your own family members. Everybody's got family members. Everybody has family members that are doing something asininely stupid, right? Right? You know it's asininely stupid. Everybody else knows it's asininely stupid. But your family member just keeps doing whatever the asininely stupid thing that is. Think about it. You can't change that family member. You've tried, haven't you? How much have you tried to change that family member? And they're still doing the same stupid ass thing that they've been doing, right? So if you can't change a family member, why do you think you can change this massive organization? Why do you think you can change the world? Again, don't get me wrong. You can nudge them. You can nudge them. Push them a little here, push them a little there. That's what I talk about with the old white guys. So I've had the experience of being around very, very, very old white people. The power of the very old white people. It's weird. You see these really scrawny, like little old white guys that you would think a strong wind could blow over. And they just have so much power. And one of the things that I say is they use like the butterfly hands on you. And so, you know, again, like you know, you think about strength, you think about power, you think about authority, you think about this big strapping person that demands change. The interesting thing was when I was around the old white people is I call it the little butterfly attack. It's this weird thing. They don't touch you. It's just they keep saying things and they keep doing things, and it's just these very light touches, and nothing that they do is really aggressive enough or, you know, in your face enough that you can really fight back against it. But they just keep hitting you with 1,000 of these little butterfly attacks. Like you need a little move here, a little move here, a little move here, and it's amazing. What they just get you moving in a direction, and you have like no idea how you got from point A to point B. You just know there are these weird little white guys like doing this thing to you, and all of a sudden you somehow wind up in the place that they wanted you, and you're like, I don't even know who to be angry at. And like you just sit there, you're just kind of like confused. You're just kind of confused. You're not really angry. You're like, it's like I didn't want to come here. I did not want this to happen. Oh, but now it has happened. And now all the old white guys are smiling. And crap, I'm not really sure what any of them did, but they're all just kind of like doing this to me. And crap, I got here. Oh well, I guess I'm gonna do the work that's in front of me. It's this weird thing. And that's what you learn about dealing with the old white people. Is old white guys, old white men, right? Is like how they talk and how they do things. They talk in a whisper. But the interesting part is, you think about like modulation. Again, we talk about, they talk about this with the police right now and all the escalation and de-escalation. And so, you know, one of the things is like by how you change your voice, like people, you can actually direct people and you can pull people just by your voice, right? So people will mimic. It's an interesting thing, like with voice. People have this real tendency to mimic the other person, right? They come to whatever level. And so, like if you're talking about police, the whole idea of escalation, de-escalation. If one person starts screaming, it's a lot more likely that the other person's going to start screaming. And if the other person gets loud, and the other person will get louder, right? They kind of mimic themselves, each other. What's really interesting is when you get like old white guys, they'll just start talking slow. So Eli, I heard you've been up to a couple of interesting things recently. Oh, yeah, I was talking to, do you remember Bob? Yeah, Bob, good guy, Bob. Yeah, I was talking to Bob the other day. Yeah, Bob was saying a couple of things. I'm kind of confused why Bob was saying you were doing some of the things that you were doing. Can you explain? I would like to know. Can you explain why you were doing these things that Bob says that you were doing? Right, and the interesting thing is, like with their voice, with how they ask questions, with the statements that they put on the table, with the pauses, breathe in. It's amazing how all of a sudden you just start moving in a direction. Like, what's happening to me? Why am I moving like this? I don't understand. It's because they know how to use their voices. And again, that's something to think about, like with organizations, is just to sit there and bring up interesting things. You know, you sit there, you're talking with the senior sysadmin. You're just like, hey, senior sysadmin, how you doing? Yeah, I'm the new guy on the help desk. Yeah, I was supposed to come up here and give you your mail. Hey, can I ask you a question? Well, yeah, sure. So you're the sysadmin, right? You're the senior sysadmin of this company. Yeah. How many servers? How many servers is this company? Oh, we probably have like, 1,000 servers. Yeah, I'm responsible for those 1,000 servers. Wow. So you're the senior sysadmin for the whole entire company. You're responsible for 1,000 servers. That is really impressive. How long have you been doing your job anyway? I've been doing this for 15 years. Wow. 15 years. You got to be good at what you do. You got to be really good at what you do. Yeah. So I just have a question. I wanted to ask this as a help desk person question. So, as a senior sysadmin, we got 1,000. You're saying we have 1,000 servers here, so this must be worth a lot of money. So I've been noticing when we have a lot of problems down at the help desk with issues with our system, many of the host systems being unpatched. Oh, yeah. Well, I guess there's problems like that. Yeah. Well, here's the interesting. I have a buddy of mine who works for another company, and they use patch management software. So they're just this software that goes through and it updates all of their systems, and he's really liked it a lot. So I was just curious, as a senior level sysadmin for the company, why doesn't our company use a product like that? I'm just kind of curious, because I would like to understand. Hopefully, I can work for you someday, and I just like to understand, what the decision making is around this. Is there a problem with that patch management system? Is it too expensive or something? Well, right, and something to be thinking about, because again, so many people are aggressive. Alphas want to be alphas. Let the alphas go and be alphas. One of the things you realize is so much in life, you can actually direct people. Again, it's slowly, it's millimeter by millimeter, it's centimeter by centimeter. You just move the ball down a little bit. Again, you just have a conversation with the senior sysadmin when you're able to. You have a conversation with the IT director. Someday you go to the cafeteria, or someday you're at a local restaurant for lunch. The IT director is there, just like, hey, I don't suppose I could sit down and have some lunch with you. Okay. And you slowly You butterfly around the edges. And you can get somewhere. You can get surprising distance with that. But that's time consuming. It is time consuming. You have to be 80 before you have enough patience to really pull that kind of horse crap off. But again, one of those other things to be thinking about with all of this. And so yeah, just realize you can control whatever is within your sphere of influence. Think about what you yourself can control. Think about how you can use your conversations. Again, how you can talk with people in non-aggressive ways to try to move a ball in one direction or the other. Think about how you can get promoted within the organization so that you actually have authority over the issues that are occurring. And then think about finding another job. TLDW. Go find another job. Go find a job that actually has the culture that you're looking for to work for. So that would be my thought there. That would be my thought. But yeah, it's interesting. If you ever get the time, if you ever get the ability to deal with old white men, it's an amazing experience. It's fascinating. Fascinating experience. Like, oh my God. Why is it that people that can buy and sell generations of my family are so quiet and polite? This doesn't seem right. And then you realize, oh, maybe this is how they got to the position of being able to buy and sell generations of my family. Oh, that was probably a bad joke for this time period. But anyways, it's still appropriate. Still appropriate. Oh, so anyways, I don't know. If you have a question, if you have a thought, put your thoughts and questions and all that down in the comment section down below. Again, as I say, I'll answer a question every day, generally, so put something down there, and I might be able to answer it for you. If you like what I'm doing with Silicon Dojo, again, Silicon Dojo is free to the end-user, hands-on technology education here in Asheville, North Carolina. If you want to throw some money into the pot, donorbox.org/ETCG. The link is down in the description. Think about throwing a couple of bucks in there. If you want a one-on-one meeting with me, so I do one-on-one meetings where I talk with people about their careers, their businesses, all that kind of stuff. If you go to Silicon Dojo, on the right hand side there's a little link. Click on that, sign up for the session. Again, it's a free session. It is here in Asheville, North Carolina. That's available. And meetups. So I do meetups where right now I'm doing classes. So last night I did Twilio for SMS messaging. Basically the APIs. So I did that. I did DNS for cybersecurity. I've done computer vision. I've done a lot at this point. Anyways, we keep doing these classes every week. So if you want to come and actually attend one of those here in Asheville, go to, again, Silicon Dojo and the meetup. Click on the meetup, sign up for the meetup, and hope to see you here. So anyways, as always, I enjoy doing this video and look forward to seeing you here in Asheville, North Carolina, hopefully for one of our meetups or whatever.